You ready? You ready to go?
Let's
Ready to
go.
go? Let's just go. Let's
Go.
let's do it.
Language.
Let's do it. Boom, 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 boom.
Zooey mama.
Zooey mama. Popcorn therapy. Films across the water. Welcome everyone to our first episode today of our movie podcast, where we're deep diving into the films we love, the stories they tell, and the feelings that they may stir up a little bit. My name is Dante Martinez. I'm an aspiring actor, full-time film nerd, and someone who is not afraid to cry during films. I'll tell you that.
I can confirm that last bit, Jeff. And I'm Cai, equal parts film nerd, and I do love movie collecting. I'm sure you'll see it at some point because I won't stop talking about it. Together, we're just two guys who love movies and aren't afraid to feel things when we talk about them.
Hey, and that's all what it's about. And today we're actually starting at ground zero. Today is a very what would you call this episode there, Kai? Just a very monumental
insane,
day,
crazy,
full of all the pre-planning. We turned the camera on and we're doing an episode.
We're just doing it
with a little left jab. Because today we're kicking off today with our podcast. We're talking about two films that are two completely of the same film. I'll tell you that. These are two films that are the same. We're looking at Captain America, the First Avenger, and the emotional gut punch, which was 2023's The Iron Claw. Before we jump in really quick, let me shout out Kai's YouTube channel real quick. Actually, I'll give him the opportunity to shout out his YouTube channel because today's film one of the films we'll be talking about, he just did a reaction video of. Kai, do you want to talk about that?
Yes, I did. So my YouTube channel where I kind of do reactions is called The Welsh Reactor Guy. Little A in reactor because I'm also an actor. See what I did there? It wasn't that clever. However, yes, I've currently only, as of right now of this recording, posted the one video because I'm starting a whole Marvel Cinematic watch, TV shows and movies, which is going to take me about 10 years probably.
Nice.
But yeah, so I started, and so Captain America: First Avenger is the very first one.
It was good. It's good. If you haven't seen it, check it out. I'll make sure to add the link here in the little description below. Hopefully, I can put the annotations up here if I can figure it out. And like I said, we will be ending with the gut punch, the emotionally Iron Claw. We both have watched it fairly recently, so we thought let's just watch it again. WrestleMania just came, so we're going to talk about that film as well.
And at the end of the podcast, we're starting a segment that's quite personal for both of us, and we think it's a very important thing, which is checking in on men's mental health. And yeah, we believe that talking about it matters, and feeling alone doesn't mean that you have to be. So yeah, that'll be at the end of the podcast, probably when talking about the Iron Claw, because that's a big topic of conversation within that movie. But yeah, I'd say let's get into it.
Nice. Love to see it. Love to hear it. First Avenger. Kai, first thoughts. Okay. Did you watch this when it first came out? Like, do you? Because I don't think I did, fortunately.
So I don't think I did. I think I've watched, because that was the year just before the Avengers came out, right?
Yeah. I think it was the last film before.
Yeah, it must have been, because that was what, 2011?
Yeah.
And then Avengers 2012. I don't know. I think that I can't have watched it. I probably watched it after watching the Avengers. That's probably the movie that kicked me into it.
I think I did too, because I remember seeing the Avengers in theaters. I have fond memories of being a 12-year-old little chap and watching that. Because that was like for at least for us in American schools. If you couldn't tell already, we're in two different places. Film school.
What?
I never knew that. I watched it right before summer break, so that was like I have fond memories of the Avengers, and I definitely think I'm with you. I watched First Avenger after watching the Avengers, which chronologically speaking didn't help. But you know what? After all these years,
no, I'm like trying to think. So growing up, I was an X-Men kid, like that. Marvel specifically, like X-Men was my jam. Wolverine always was my favorite character growing up. And so I think I probably watched all of those, and then honestly, I probably watched Iron Man religiously over and over again.
Nice.
and then watched the Avenger and the Incredible Hulk. I watched that religiously as a kid. All the Hulk
Okay.
movies, actually, just Hulk, the Incredible Hulk.
Okay.
I think there's another one. But yeah, I think I watched those religiously, watched Avengers, and then realized that there were other movies that weren't those 5
Yeah. Like,
on
what?
repeat. I was like,
Yeah.
wow, why there's more? So yeah, I don't know. Why do you think that is? I don't think it can't have been the marketing. Like, surely it was marketed up
I think,
hugely, but
yeah. I think for me, I think I wasn't fairly into besides Spider-Man, because like you're saying for you was
oh
X-Men.
yeah,
For me it was Spider-Man. Like huge fan of the Tobey Maguire movies. I watched Spider-Man 3 with my mom at a drive-in theater and I fell asleep. So I didn't watch it the first time thoroughly. But I was a big Spider-Man kid. And so I actually didn't even know about the Avengers until the film came out. And I didn't even know about anything post the Avengers. I didn't know anything Marvel expanded until like Guardians first came out, which kind of goes to show you like Guardians came out and I had no idea. Like I was not nowhere near the Marvel fandom I am now. And I feel like I just didn't pay attention to like Iron Man, Thor, Captain America. Like I was Spider-Man through and through.
yeah,
And I think the Avengers, I think we'll talk about it once we get to the Avengers, but that was such a pivotal moment for me in my Marvel
mm.
journey because it was the culmination of these first 4 films I didn't even get the chance to watch when
Yeah.
they first
Well,
came out.
this is what I find. So obviously, as you've already mentioned, we're not from the same place. Obviously, you're American and I'm Welsh.
What?
What? But this is what I find interesting as well, is that, from my presumption, obviously because he's called Captain America, like in my brain, I don't know, I feel like that would have been like a character that a lot of people would have gravitated towards purely because he is, the symbolism of being American, being a true soldier, all the things that they say in the movie. But I'm kind of surprised that, I mean, as much as Spider-Man is, I agree. I grew up on those as well. Not as much as X-Men, but I adore those movies. But I'm quite surprised that it wasn't until kind of Avengers / Guardians came out that you kind of expanded your kind of watch. Again, do you think that that's down to like a marketing thing? Like, do you think that they just got better with pushing their movies, or was it a hype thing, conversation? What do you think?
I think like this is a really good segue into the first talking point I want to talk about is like why did we start with the first Avenger, right? I think for me it's a little bit different than I think how Kevin Feige and Marvel thought about it. I think with this film in particular, because it wasn't the first that came out completely, I don't think it takes away. Would we have seen a different outcome if it did? Like if this was the first film that came out instead of Iron Man, I feel like it would have really set a precedent for setting the MCU, but I don't think it takes away from it, if that makes sense, because of the timeline that we're in, because it starts in the 40s, World War II, I'm assuming, right? Because it has like the nods to like, the people that we don't talk about and the person we don't talk about. I like how they started with it because I think the marketing of this movie was clever in hindsight because they knew people are going to dive into this lore. People are going to dive into the backstory and stuff. And with Iron Man that came out and Thor and the Incredible Hulk, since, it's technically canon to MCU, I like how this film kind of sat in a weird pocket right before Avengers because it does take place at the time, like, what is it, like 60, 70 years backwards. But I think it's such a good like moment in time because it sets up like this. I think it's this one that goes right into the Avengers. I have no idea, Kai. I think it's this or Thor, one of the two.
Yeah.
I think in hindsight, I think at the time, I'm not sure if it was down to marketing or not. I think Marvel was still trying to figure themselves out. For me, being an American, again,
Howdy. What's this about?
Step out of that car, please, sir.
What is that?
I need you to step out of the car, sir.
Okay, I'll stop that.
Keep it coming. I think for me, it was a little different because of my age, because I like when this film came out, I was 11. So I wasn't like pro America. And so it wasn't like huge for me. So I can't speak on the time in that aspect, but I think when it comes to like, how does it fit in how Marvel was putting their films together? I think that end credit scene with Nick Fury, I think was great. I think because that sets right into the Avengers, and that's
Mhm.
where I started. That was my journey, and then I was able to go back. What about you? What are your thoughts on kind of how the timeline works for the film?
So this is a really interesting one as well, because I've watched a lot of, in terms of the movies, Marvel films for the cinematic universe. I'm sure we'll talk about non-MCU Marvel projects, either in a bit or on another podcast. But I think for me, after rewatching it, it's the perfect start timeline order, purely because it brings into the topic conversation of kind of what it means to be a symbol and to
Mhm.
be really a change for the world in which what's happening at that current moment. Jimmy,
Yeah.
it was Captain America from the movie is made purely to be a weapon to use against to win World War II.
Yeah.
Whereas what comes from it is, and as Stanley Tucci's character says, is that it's not about kind of having the biggest, toughest person. It's about having the right-minded person. And I think that's what it instills, this like wholeheartedly good message,
Mhm.
Jimmy, to particularly young audiences watching this for the first time, and going, oh, what's this? And especially because it's set first. And I think it's then Agent Carter, timeline wise, because I'm obviously going through
Yeah.
that Agent Carter and then Captain Marvel. So you've got, Captain Marvel's quite a fairly recent one. Do you know what I mean? And so they've had a lot of time to kind of perfect that. But this was a big one that they needed to, because this is going to be the first movie people watch, if they want to do it in timeline order. And you need to get people from the get-go. So yeah, I think I think it's the perfect place to start, because again, he is just wholeheartedly good. Jimmy, he cares about the little person, doesn't like bullies, and obviously that's then gonna have a good clash with Iron Man, who's very, known to be full of himself. And
Yeah. It's
yeah,
polar opposites.
exactly. And I think that's what makes particularly the Avengers film so entertaining, is that you've got 6 people who are not the same. And
Yeah.
that's the journey you take. But with Captain America First Avenger, I don't know, it's everything about it is good. The music's good. Alan Silvestri.
I was gonna say Alan. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know, I think as well, we can talk about this a little bit later, but I think the villain for Captain America is perfect. Mainly because it's not it's not the level of Thanos where you're kind of like, nothing's going to win. You're just like, well, it's pointless, Jimmy. Like, you're actually interested to know what Red Skull is thinking.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think that I'm kind of just going off on the same circle here. But yeah, I think
No, you're good.
I
I'll
think
jump in.
I think Cap is the epitomization of what it means to be a good person who gets a special ability, or ends up getting something that makes him able to do things like save people, or be able to have this strength to him that not only makes him a good person but makes him a hero. And I think that's the perfect way, particularly for young kids, to start. It's just brilliant.
Start somewhere.
Yeah,
I love
yeah,
that.
yeah.
I think something you mentioned as well is just like, I think who he is supposed to be for the people at the time, which is very mirrored to the people of the time of the 40s all around the world, but also in the film. I love, and this kind of goes align with his legacy that we can kind of obviously talk about in future episodes, but like his identity and self-worth gets established in this film, and something I'm very emotional when it comes to movies. Like I am not afraid, like I said, I'm not afraid to cry during a movie. But like this film, I remember kind of like the first couple moments, those first couple scenes where he wants to get drafted, but he just can't. Because he's not big enough, he's not tall enough, he's not, he has all these like he's being hindered by so many like health problems and stuff. And it's something where it's like he just wants to be at least providing himself to a bigger cause, something. And that sense of identity and self-worth is so important to someone, especially like me, and kind of tying into like later on talking about it. The self-worth talk, I think, is the biggest takeaway that I took away from like Steve at this time. It gets very prominent later on in the movies, but I think what I really like in this film particularly is his ability to kind of just push through regardless, and his need for that identity. For me specifically, I my partner is Guatemalan. You're Welsh. I am technically Hispanic. What? I am technically Hispanic, but I don't have a specific identity group to stick with. And obviously, being Hispanic is, but um, I don't necessarily have that sense of identity. I've always been trying to search for that, and so I think that's kind of stuck to me. Of like, you know what, Steve Rogers was someone who definitely clinged towards wanting to have that sense of identity. I think it's very important. I think it's good because it's not like a hey, I'm flaunting that I'm this. It's more of like hey, like we are a community of one who is this, and I think that's special. And I think not even just that, but the symbolism of hope that he has shown. It is in a bad way because obviously you go through the propaganda, which was a huge thing in World War II. I'm assuming it was as well in the UK for you guys. But I think I think it's important. It's a necessary evil in a way. And I think in tying with the film, I think it really showed that like he can be blue collar. He can be, he can just be that superhero that is just so basic. I don't want to throw that term around like it's a bad thing, but like he is quite literally the epitome of a superhero. And I think it works because of what he stands for, who he is, and regardless of the hands he's been dealt before, I think it's really good that he kind of pursued that. And even if he's not perfect, being able to, I love the scene where he's kind of getting bullied and that he's like, I do this all day because he's sticking to his guns, he's sticking to who he is. I love that.
Oh, no, I completely agree. And I think as well, something interesting you brought up then is in regards to the propaganda and the storyline of the fact that he is called Captain America, Jimmy. And so that is, particularly from a film standpoint, because I haven't read the comics. I'd love to, but I just haven't. The fact that he was called Captain America, like I wonder if it wasn't set during World War II, say it was set after, and he was just created as, a superhero just in general, so that they had someone that they could call up, kind of thing. I wonder if he would have just been Captain Rogers, Jimmy, whether they put in America purely because they needed people to like rally around someone and see hope somewhere, because it's such a dark time. So I wonder if, America was planted purely because they needed, because they even show the propaganda in the movie, don't they? They have like the whole song and dance, and he's wanting to make a change. He's wanting to do something. And so I wonder if it would have been like in the Marvel What If, like if it wasn't set during the 40s, would it still be Captain America purely because of the marketing? Or what, maybe if it was more secret, they would have kind of gone more down the just Captain Rogers type thing, because it still would have stuck because he's a superhero. I find that quite interesting.
It's good. Yeah, I like the branding helped too. Like obviously the marketing, propaganda, the branding helped. How do you think, Kai, if it means now, without diving too much into the current day MCU Captain America? Obviously, we have Anthony Mackie, who's great, by the way. We both love him. Who's playing him? I'm a big fan of him. How do you think that's kind of shaped the legacy of that movie, but also the legacy of the character throughout the years that kind of started with the first Avenger?
Oh, that is such a good question. I mean, I think to answer that, you've got to look at everything that Cap has done up to the kind of where we're at. And obviously you've got the whole issues in terms of Civil War, and you've got particularly Age of Ultron. Like those are very a very strong part of why Steve is who he is now. But I think in terms of legacy, ultimately, he never shied away from a fight, Jimmy, because for him, it was, I believe that this is right.
Yeah.
And I will always do that. It's like in the first Avengers when he's like, put on your, he's like, put on your suit of armor and let's go a few rounds. Jimmy, he has no fear
There's no
at all, Jimmy. And it's just, I believe that this is the right thing. Now, whether that is the right thing is down to personal opinion, because everyone's different, Jimmy. Like, it might be right to some people and wrong to others, but to me, Cap's legacy is being just wholeheartedly a good person and wanting to fight for a cause, no matter whether it's huge or whether it's little. What about you?
I agree. I love kind of what you were mentioning when he was saying like kind of the moments in Civil War, Age of Ultron, specifically even too, like you think about Infinity War when he goes nomad after the events of Civil War. I don't know, like he's such a character that obviously so many people miss. Spoilers. But what? But he's a character that like really symbolizes exactly what you just said of just doing the right thing, but also knowing that like he stumbled across his path. Like you kind of look at Civil War and stuff, and like it wasn't a right versus wrong with that film. It was just a perspective versus perspective. And I feel like there was so much misunderstanding. If they just talked it out, Kai, we would have been fine. But I
feel like there's gonna be hundreds of people that disagree with you there.
Oh no, I agree. Oh, no, hey, listen, we don't even talk about Bucky. All right, that's a whole thing. But I kind of, I don't know. I just like, I love kind of his arc throughout the MCU. And I know this isn't just a Captain America deep dive, but him at the end, towards the end of Civil War, going into Infinity War, when he is so not a Cap that we're used to, I think is still special in its own mind, because like he's not perfect. He's not this symbol of hope that he used to be, in the first Avenger, during the Avengers, during Age of Ultron. He's a lot has happened to him, a lot of decisions he's made as well, because you could say Tony Stark is the leader of the Avengers and stuff like that. And do they have one? Do they not? Whatever. But like, he's kind of been thrust in that role because of who he is. And I love how he handles these moments in his life changing. Especially like with the loss of like Peggy, multiple times, because obviously like, he had to rain check the dance, which is such a dramatic scene. That scene is very emotional for me. But all these moments changing him, and he's still growing, but also acknowledging that he's not the same person he was yesterday. I think that's something that was really stuck out to me throughout the arc of the MCU for him. That is something that, again, it's those fundamentals that this film presented, where it's just like, this is where we started. This is where this dude from Brooklyn came from. He was just a kid, right?
I was just about to say, I think we forget how young he is, particularly in the first Avenger. Like, and to have that mentality at such a young age, one of just doing the right thing, I don't think can be taught. That's just something that, it just kind of I'm trying to think of the right word, the instinct to always seek truth and seek wanting to do the right thing and looking after for people he cares about is always there. That doesn't come once he becomes a superhero. You find that beforehand, even when they're in the cinema and the guy's yelling for the propaganda video to end, and he's like, just shut up. Do you know what I mean? No, and doesn't care. He's just, and then gets obviously beaten up, as we mentioned. But yeah. I think we forget that how, like, he's so young, and he's even young. Like, I know of technically not, because he's slept for 70 years by the time the Avengers comes around, but he's still like, he may have aged, but it's not like he's learned stuff. He's still learning. And that's the difference, I think, of what makes him so interesting, just as a character. Steve Rogers, forget Captain America, just Steve is just really interesting, and that's a good thing.
I think it's good. I think the way that they went about the first film was very, very well done. Some of the crew people that worked on it, Joe Johnston directed, Christopher Marcus, Stephen McFeely wrote the screenplay, which still actually work on MCU projects today. I think they wrote Fantastic Four. I know they wrote the Avengers films coming up.
Say that
I don't know.
again.
Say that again. They've done a lot of projects. I know that they wrote a couple of the Avengers films. I think too, it's such a superpower to write these. It's to write the same films in the same franchise because you know where these characters are going continuity wise. So like from a writing perspective, at least in my brain, because I love to write, I think it's such a beautiful thing to kind of bounce back and forth of like, this character wouldn't do this in another film that they would have done previously or not done. I think that's huge. I was looking at Joe Johnston's stuff, Kai, and wanted to throw out some movies that he's directed.
Go for it.
Which is so funny that he's directed some of these films. You have Jumanji. It's a good one.
The original,
95.
wait, the original or the remake?
The original.
Original.
Jurassic Park 3. There you go.
I don't think a lot of people care for that one, but I haven't seen them in a long time, so I can't comment.
Hey, yeah, no comment. And his last film that he did was The Nutcracker in the Four Realms, 2018. I remember seeing some marketing, and I don't remember anything else. And he's directing the Chronicles of Narnia coming up. Interesting. Look at that.
I thought that was Greta Gerwig.
They might have.
Is he
the
like
Chronicle
co-directing?
I think he might be.
Maybe.
Yeah, the Silver Chair. Who knows? But interesting
sure.
though.
Yeah.
Kai, what was an aspect of the first Avenger that you really enjoyed, technically speaking? We're actors, so we love to. Not even that, we're film buffs. So you have directors, writers, composers, editors. You have the hair and makeup team. What was an aspect of the first Avenger that stuck out to you? And then I'll go.
Ooh, I think this is something we could talk about for a long time. I think to keep it more concise rather than me just going on a ramble about what I loved about it.
Yeah,
honestly, the costume and set design was because like to make a film feel like the 40s. Like I know there are so many people that have done it, and there's so many talented people out there, but not once when I watched it did my brain think, oh, I don't feel like this is other than the end credit scene or the end of the movie when he wakes up later. But everything about it, from like the costume, from like even the way people kind of like held themselves actors wise, like background artists, like they did a great job.
Yeah,
I think you kind of forget that the way we do things now is just, even in terms of conversation and like posture and stuff, is so different, and it can really make or break an atmosphere. Yeah. I think those are perfect in that movie. What about you?
I actually did not think you were going to say that. I thought you were going to say what I was going to say. But to piggyback on what you said, my partner and I had just went to Universal Studios yesterday, so we did the studio tour, obviously, and they mentioned a little note that the New York scene when Steve is running into the street, I think when he just transformed, like when he just had the super soldier serum injected, and he's like running from the goons. That was taken that was shot in the New York backlot in the New York sets. And they did it all to make it look older, which I thought was great. Kind of walking or on the tour, watching that, just the way that that team did for that set decoration just made it like, it was so surreal. And it's such a recent image in my mind. I wanted to piggyback on that for you, which I thought was really cool.
I definitely think as well, the CGI, like, it's noticeable. I mean, it's 2011, so like, Jimmy, there's going to be things that are noticeable in terms of computer graphics, and that makes sense.
Yeah.
But like, some of that movie looks impeccable, and it confuses me as to why so much stuff now doesn't. Like, even when I was watching episode 1 of Agent Carter, and like that's a TV show. Do you know what I mean? As in, like, a lot of the time budgets aren't as high for TV shows, but there's one shot of Peggy walking from a car into a building, and you have this beautiful backdrop and you have like a train passing. You have all these different things, and my brain genuinely thought, this is about 3 seconds of this 40-minute episode. and I can't even imagine how much money went behind that. But it shows people care. Do you know what I mean? It shows people want to create that atmosphere, and they definitely did particularly with Captain America.
Yeah.
So what's your favorite filmmaking aspect?
Oh yeah, my favorite filmmaking aspect. Thank you for Kai for asking.
No problem.
You kind of mentioned it. I love Alan Silvestri's work. So I love the score. For me, I was thinking about it, and I love the screenplay a lot, but I love the score in this film personally. Like I just thought it was. I think it's so like it encapsulates that feeling of hope, that feeling of like determination and feeling bigger than you actually are in a very doing the right thing, courage way. I love that. That I would say that's my favorite aspect.
Talking about soundtrack, and this is a little segue, but you've just kind of you've made me think of the idea, so now I want to get your opinion. Isn't it interesting how certain, particularly MCU films, have scores that people love and remember, and then some just have songs that people remember, but they don't remember the score? Like if you look at the difference between Captain America, and you've got obviously that beautiful Alan Silvestri score, and then you go to, if you say to somebody, "Oh, what's your favorite thing about the music in Iron Man?" They will tell you the stuff like like Avengers, it's like Back in Black, it's like Black Sabbath, it's those type of heavy songs that people are like, "Oh, it's such a good song," which they are. But isn't it interesting that identity is now given to that superhero as opposed to a score that encapsulates that? Because whenever you think of Thanos, for me, it's always the end of Infinity War music. That's always for me. I think of Thanos. But with Iron Man or even Guardians of the Galaxy, it's all. I never think of. I can't remember what the score is. I can remember the songs,
it's more the soundtrack,
but I can't. Yeah, the soundtrack, but I can't remember the score. So it's just an interesting segue.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a huge thing to like give to the music department, and something that like when I try making films myself is something I try to look for is like in the upcoming projects what music really works for this. Because hey, most of the time like people love AC/DC, so like you slap on some AC/DC on Iron Man and he's gonna run with it, which I think works in such a beautiful way. And then Cap, like I think you pair a really good score like Alan Silvestri's work with Cap, and it's the same thing with Thanos at the end of Infinity War, which I think is so nice. I think it's really good that those types of music, because obviously talking film buffs, a lot of people don't know the difference between scores and soundtracks, but it's nice to differentiate the two, but know that like you can make the same beautiful film and same beautiful arc regardless on what it is, which I think is nice. I love that.
Yeah.
I wanted to we want add a little cute little fun segment on each of the movies that we review. Favorite scene, just pretty simple. What scene best encapsulates the film for you? I know mine. If you'll indulge me, Kai, a little bit.
You go first.
I feel like it might be the same as you. So
do you know what? I'll hear yours. It might be, but I might try and pick a different one purely just to talk about it. But you tell me yours.
I love the scene. I was gonna say the moment where he gets beat up in the alley, but it's short, it's sweet, and it's very monumental towards later in the MCU. But for me, I love the scene that you were talking about where Stanley Tucci is sitting down with him in the dormitory and he's talking to Steve right before the super soldier serum. That conversation, that dialogue between the two of them is so meaningful. It's so grounded. It's so like such a beautiful scene where like it's about Steve, but like I really was like I was feeling for Stanley Tucci's character. Like I was and spoiler alert, when he ends up dying, like later on, later on, it's that memory for me to that character that he played that is so meaningful. That conversation that happens literally, I think it's the day of or the day before. That to me, I think was my favorite scene.
I do think that in terms of from particularly an acting point of view, because we watch a lot of things as actors because we really want to know about people and we want to see people's stories, even if it's for 2 hours, Jimmy. That scene Stanley Tucci does an incredible job in such a small amount of time. And there's a line in it I think that's really important as well, which is when he says that people forget that the first country the Germans invaded was their own.
Yeah.
And so it's that thing of like, not everyone has that same opinion, same mindset, same want for something.
Mhm.
And that's purely because of the experiences they've had. And I think that comes down to having, particularly I think good superhero movies have a mentor, even if it's for a short amount of time, somebody to help teach or instill something that makes the character think. It's like an Iron Man with the gentleman that he's in the cave with. Jimmy, he learns so much from him and that drive that Tony isn't Tony anymore. He's a different person.
Yeah.
I do think that's, in terms of my favorite scene, that's probably it. However, one short scene that I think is probably integral, not to just the movie, but just probably just to the story of the MCU and what will later come of people's identity and opinions, which is when he gets captured, when he knocks on the front door and goes in and attacks Red Skull's HQ, and he gets captured, and Red Skull says, okay, well, what makes you so special? And he goes, nothing. As you said earlier, I'm just a kid from Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And it's that thing of like, he had the same thing Red Skull did. And Red Skull had ended up having all these complications and also so much hate. Yeah. And he's like, why didn't it work for me? And it's like, because you weren't the right person. And I think that really makes Captain America a completely different conversation than most superheroes. Because if you look at like Bruce Banner, like that wasn't planned. Like he didn't want that to happen. Whereas with Cap, he was like, I can do this. I want to be a symbol. I want to be something for somebody.
Yeah.
And I want to show people that I'm a good person. Such a good scene. And Red Skull's reaction, Hugo Weaving, it's so good. It was a line he's like, what makes you so special?
Yeah.
It's just like that. It's just
good. He's good. I was a little upset that he I don't remember the details. Maybe we can talk about it later on when he doesn't come back in Endgame. And it's the actor whose name I'm blanking on. I apologize for that. The guy who played
in The Walking
Aaron
Dead
from The Walking Dead. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember.
I would have loved to see Hugo again as Red Skull. That would have been nice.
Yeah. I think as well, I would have, as much as I think he's perfect for Red Skull, I would have loved to have seen him play a more, I say, prominent character in the MCU, somebody that's there more, because he really does. I think he crushes it in everything he does.
Yeah. He's really
and
good.
I've never seen a bad performance from him personally. Yeah. Even if you look at what's it called? What's the war movie you showed me with Andrew Garfield, where he played
Hacksaw Ridge.
Where Hugo Weaving's the dad, right?
I think so.
Yeah. And if not, you're gonna put a big X above my head right now, being like, wrong.
Fact check.
Yeah. But yeah, I think, God, he's such a good choice.
Yeah,
Jimmy.
He's a good choice.
Instill that fear in somebody that doesn't really do that much in terms of two characters you love. To instill that fear. Oof.
It's good. I like it. Well, it's a good segue. Wild card pick. Somebody, one person. We could literally be anybody that Kai and I are going to choose as someone who undeniably stood out as an actor is something we want to do too. Kai, I'll serve it to you.
Who's Hugo Weaving?
I love it. He's great. He did a really good job. I'm not gonna lie. He did a really good job.
There's so many good performances in that movie. Yeah. Like Stanley Tucci, Chris Evans, obviously, Haley Atwell as Peggy, like even what's his name? Tommy Lee Jones.
Tommy Lee. He was a colonel.
I completely forgot he was in that movie, and I was just like, what?
I was like, what?
Like everyone's good. Do you know what I mean? Even if they're in it for like a couple sentences or whatever, it's just kind of crazy. It's stacked. Hugo Weaving, though, perfect introduction in terms of villain that made you really want them to lose.
Really want to beat him.
Yeah, like I'm trying in my brain. I'm trying to guess yours.
Oh yeah, go on.
Stanley Tucci.
Yep, there you go. Kind of mentioned it. It's easy.
Yeah,
I think I love Stanley Tucci in almost everything. Like, it doesn't matter if he is such a grounded, like, because I think he played a German scientist in that film,
yeah,
who was in America at the time, which a lot of German scientists were in America during World War II, which is very insane, for a lot of different reasons. We saw that in Oppenheimer too.
Mm.
I just love his performance. I think he's great in everything he does. It doesn't matter if he's that serious and grounded and that teacher role almost in this film, or he is just
Yeah.
slapstick comedy in Hunger Games, for example. But
Mm.
he has those moments where he gets serious and you get serious with him. Like, I think he was just fantastic in this film. Chris Evans was great as well. And I think, like you said, there were a lot of actors that killed it. Haley Atwell, stuff like that. And so Tommy Lee Jones, Hugo Weaving's a great shout. I loved Stanley Tucci. He's my wild card pick for sure.
Yeah, and that's a good one. I think he'd definitely be up there for me. Because again,
Yeah.
to make you feel so much within 25, 30 minutes of, of him being in the movie,
Yeah.
and they don't really give him much backstory, Jimmy. It's not like they do a lot of emotional tie-ins with, say, family or his private life, etc. It's all to do with Steve and his opinions of Steve. So to make somebody care that much, it's a real testament, not only to the writing, but the performance.
It's a really good supporting character for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
We want to talk about the other film that we both wanted to chat about today, The Iron Claw.
Yes.
It's a good movie, to say very, very short. It's very emotional.
Thanks everyone for joining the.
Like, we'll be here all night.
Yeah.
Actually, we're leaving. No, see, this is one of those films that means a lot to me because of not only the material, but the emotion that comes with the material. Kai, we both saw this film, I think at different times, but we've seen it multiple times since it came out, and it's fairly recent, 2023, I think, December of 23. I, being a wrestling fan, and you not really watching wrestling like I do, we're going to come at it with two different perspectives, but the same weight. And I think it's going to be such a beautiful aspect. I kind of want to hear your thoughts on it. Kind of jumping into wanting to watch it, finding out the cast, and then as you were watching it, what were your kind of emotional reactions when you watched it for the first time?
So I actually watched it in the cinema, which the screen cut out halfway through.
Oh.
So there's like a montage of them training to like this really like upbeat song, and you've just got one of them just going, and then the screen just paused and all audio stopped, and we were sat in silence for about 10 minutes. Now, I'm so glad that happened then and not later on, because that would have been depressing. But yeah, so that's the first time I watched it, and as soon as I watched it, I was like, I need to now watch it all the way through without that middle bit, because I need to actually see the opinion. But I really, really enjoyed it, and as you said, I'm not particularly a wrestling fan. I didn't grow up on it. I don't personally see the entertainment value behind it, and that's just me from what I've watched growing up.
Yeah.
However, there's something about wrestling movies. Now, I don't know whether it's just the character development or whether it's but like I can name 3 off the top of my head that I'm just like, these movies bang, which is
Fighting with my family. No, kidding. Sorry.
No, Fighting with My Family and The Wrestler, all 3.
Okay.
They're just movies that I care so much about the people in them. And I think that's the thing for me, is that I like watching stories in short bursts, whereas wrestling is obviously it's over years. Do you know what I mean? It's over so many shows. But yeah, I just, it is just, and it's hard. It's a hard movie to watch, and it's a long movie, particularly with a heavy topic.
Yeah.
But it's so damn good. It's so well done. A24 for you.
A24. So I want to piggyback on what you said. Because I am in the same boat. Fighting with My Family actually got me emotional as well, even though it's very lighthearted in a way, but it's still pretty light emotional. Iron Claw, you talk about The Wrestler, like Mickey Rourke, that is just one of those films that I was like, oh, that's hard to watch, but in like I need to see this story through way. I think if you'll indulge me, I think me and you particularly, Kai, with us pursuing acting and our careers and stuff, I think the reason why those movies hit so hard and why you mentioned wrestling movies hit so hard is because wrestlers, I think wrestling in general gets a really bad rap because it's predetermined. A lot of people call it fake. It is scripted. It is a live TV show. Like it is literally just live theater. But I think why it hits so hard for us emotionally is because, like actors, we leave it all on the line for gratification. Not
Yeah.
necessarily all the time, but in essence, like that vulnerability that those wrestlers go through is so we watch it for entertainment, just like fans watch movies for entertainment, but you're watching vulnerable, raw emotion when people are acting, when they're playing a role, when they are diving into a world and a mindset and a character. I think that's, if you disagree with me, let me know. But that's something that for me, like, really hooks it for these types of movies with wrestlers, and not just bound to just wrestling movies, but like other movies where people are just like putting their lives on the line for a career that they need. You know what I mean? And so like being artists that we are, Kai, I think it really hits home for us because it is that vulnerability of I need to be, not even necessarily need to be the best, but I need to be the best person I am and the best performer I can be. And that journey of that is so difficult. And I think it really ties into our little men's mental health talk we'll have a little bit later. Because that's so prominent with this film, which kind of dives me into kind of some of the themes. The biggest thing is like obviously that masculinity, but more like the emotional suppression. I kind of want to like pick your brain a little bit on like the Von Erich brothers with their father in particular, because they are really raised up in this world where they're supposed to be strong, tough, obedient. And it sucks because their vulnerability is really punished with when not living up to the father's standards. Well, how did you feel about the brothers and the father's relationship and kind of how it ties into that whole like masculinity theme in essence?
Yeah. It's I think this is definitely a conversation which, could be spoken about. And I don't think we'll ever truly get a 100% everyone's opinion the same, because I think we're getting there. Because ultimately, when you look at the character, particularly with the dad, the themes of masculinity and what being a man is, and having that get it done no matter what, and men don't cry, that type of, I can say, old fashioned mentality comes from a place of love, where it comes from a parent wanting a child to not have to deal with bad things or things being said to them, or being able to stand up for themselves. And it is coming from a place of love, and it's wanting to look after your own. But in doing so, you're stopping that conversation and the ability to express how you're feeling, because everyone's brains are wired differently, and everyone has different things in terms of their body autonomy that other people don't. You've got some people need help in ways that some other people don't, whether that's physically or mentally. And so by having that push through, stop talking about it, we haven't got time, get on with it, the world's a bad place, you just got to get on with it mentality, it instills this fear to kind of show who you are. And you can be a very emotional person, you cannot, but you can still talk, and the point of talking is to show that, like, we live in a very rough, particularly with social media, we live in a really tough era. And I think luckily social media has helped in that it's gotten more people to talk, and it's made it not so much of an issue. But I also think it's doubled down on that and made it harder for people to talk, because of I also, people have very negative opinions of certain things or people or etc. But I think that's what it comes down to, particularly with the conversation of masculinity. I don't know whether you agree.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree to an extent. I think social media definitely plays a part too, but I think the but and by the way, we are not advocates for being therapists, obviously. We're just trying to make sense of our own lives just like we do with the movies. Um I think the age that we have been entering and continue to still enter and still have a lot of work to enter is the mental health aspect of it. I know we talk about men's mental health, but just mental health in general. Like it doesn't matter
Mm.
who you are. Like Kai was saying, just talk to someone about it. You don't have to be like you said, like not you don't have to be the most emotional or the least emotional person to talk. Talking in general is good, and I think it's to tie it into the film. I really like the little sub characters that ground certain people. For example, I love Zac Efron's wife in the film. She
Mm.
really grounds him in a way that, like, obviously, we'll have a huge spoiler alert earlier in the episode.
Yeah.
But um, as the brothers start to pass away, her grounding Zac Efron's character when they have kids and they move far away and they have an apartment and like kind of disconnected from the dad and the mom is so like I think it's very important for Zac Efron's character because he's just watching this happen and this play out and this not work and this go awry. And it's like her her being a plant in a if we're talking from a script perspective, like her being that grounded character for him is so important because it not necessarily distracts him from everything that's been going on, but like it keeps him above water. It keeps him from kind of drowning in that masculine um trauma that their dad kind of put him through and stuff. And I agree with everything you were saying about the love aspect. I agree. I think he loves those boys. It's just loving them in the way that they need to is something that um really spoke to me a lot in that movie. Particularly, whatever people's cases may be with their families and parents and stuff. I can only
Mm.
speak on my own. My mom loves me to death. My father, when he was here, loved me to death. They loved me in two different ways and two different ways that work and didn't work. And I
Mm.
think as I experience that and as I get older and as I grow, because we're as humans, we're just continuously growing. Um, I think it's really given me perspective for when I do have kids to be able to love them in a way that caters to them. Um, because like I look at the kind of the ways that my mom loved me, and I was like, I mean, she came from a really good place, but it's tied to some, some issues. But I think it's just really shown me kind of, and through the experiences of watching this, it's like, how can you be there for your kids? How can you be there for your friends? How can you be there for your, for your, your people that you look after and stuff?
Mm.
So kind of tying into that, I went on a little tangent there.
No,
Um,
no, it's a good tangent, and also it adds to the point of vulnerability. I think that a lot of, and they talk about it quite a lot in that. And you're right, the Lily James's character, the wife of Zac Efron, not only does she help him, but she also there's a really beautiful moment um, with the mum when the mum's kind of getting ready for, again, spoilers, for another funeral of one of her
mm,
sons. And she's there and she's like, everyone's going to know that I'm wearing the same outfit. And
that
she's getting really worked up on it. And you see Lily James talking, being like, it's fine. Like, you're okay. Like, talk it through. And it is interesting, isn't it? How certain movies, or even just in real life, you kind of meet people that kind of, they care about everyone. Do you know what I mean? Like, even if they don't get on with everyone, they still want everyone to be good, or they wish well for people, etc. I think
yeah.
those type of people, this is why I like this movie, because you had that between the brothers, but you also
Mm,
had that from external, like
yeah.
family isn't just blood. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's, family can be friends and partners and anyone. It can be, people that you meet online, within reason. um that's what I'm saying. It's the film really, it really brings so many people together into circumstances that they're quite crazy, and they're really, and some of them are really, for example, the big wrestling event where there's multiple brothers fighting. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you know, anyone to have a relative in sport is impressive because it shows they're really talented. But to have multiple,
Yeah.
multiple brothers or multiple sisters or any siblings or parents, etc., to be in that industry shows that they put a lot of time and effort in.
Yeah.
And that's not something to kind of take lightly. Like, that's a lot of dedication. And I think the fact that people still, I think Zac Efron's character does it perfectly. And this is probably something we would have talked about anyway, but I find it interesting how the only time that Zac Efron cries is at the end of the film when he's watching his sons play and he's reminded of his brothers.
Yeah.
However, not once during the film did I query or question why he didn't cry.
Why he's not crying. Yeah.
And I think that says more about society, and it says more about just, and we're being very specific here with men's mental health because we are both men. And obviously it's not something we can talk about for anyone else, whether they're non-binary, female, or however they identify.
Mm-hmm.
But we can talk about this just from experience, because we also know a lot of people that we've spoken to about mental health. And it's so crazy to me that I'm the type of person that I try to be more open and talk more however I'm feeling. But not once did I think, wow, why isn't he crying? I just thought he's keeping his emotions to him. And then that's why the ending hits so hard.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you, I just didn't think about it.
I agree too. I think too, like, it's such a good screenplay perspective as well for Zach, because you think about kind of the brother, and this kind of goes into my last little topic I want to talk about for the film itself, was like the brotherhood and love that they had, because he was technically the oldest. He really wasn't. He was the second oldest, but I forgot the youngest brother's names, but he passed away when he was like 5. But Zach's character was just thrust into that older brother perspective. I can't speak on being an older sibling. I can only speak on it from kind of observing and the ideas of that. But like, you kind of have to think of, like, there was definitely a expectation to be the strongest of the brothers there. Which I think is so interesting that you mentioned, like, he just didn't cry until the very end, because he's no longer a brother. That scene is so emotional for me. Like, I was weeping. I was a weeping willow. It's such a good scene. And I love the love between these brothers. Like, I do. Like, that sense of brotherhood with them is just so strong. It's like, it really pays off the emotional depth that you see later, but like, it's those moments that you just hold on to, of being there for someone, having that love, like having someone there. And sometimes you got to ask for it. Sometimes you got to look out. The right ones will come. I think that's important. Something that I want to mention too, we're talking a lot about, this film is very strong with men, but I love the strong women in this film too. Like, we're talking about, is her name Lily Adams? Is that
Lily James?
Lily James. I forgot the mom's name.
I was literally about to say the same thing.
They're
Maura Tierney.
That's what it is. They're both so good in this film as well. Like, they're very strong external love support characters. I love how much the mom specifically grounds the family, but also grounds the dad. There's a scene where she had just lost her last son, and it's just Zach, and the dad comes inside, and like, dinner's not been started, and she's just sitting painting, and he's like, "Where's dinner?" She's like, "I'm not feeling like eating." And it's kind of that subtle moment where he's like, "Okay, well, that means I can't eat." And then he looks at the chair in front of him and just sits at the chair. And it's almost like, you know what? Like, it's that moment of just being quiet with each other. And they have gone through so much. And she's almost grounding him in that moment. I love that, because like, we don't see that from the dad character at all in the film. That moment, I think, was such a good arc for him. not necessarily in a way it's like, oh, he's been relieved of his how he's been as a father. Yes, he's been loving, but he's also been abusive and stuff. It doesn't necessarily excuse that, but it almost shows it grows him even in the slightest, which I thought was very powerful. And she
Yeah.
was the one that was able to do that. It wasn't the deaths of his sons, it was her in that moment of just being like, I'm gonna do something for me because I have nothing else at the moment. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna paint.
Yeah.
That's
And
beautiful.
I think that that's an important factor as well, is that she is painting, and that's something she used to do a lot, and she makes a point of that with I can't remember who she's talking to. I think she's talking to one of his sons after he's come out of hospital, and she says, I painted that, and he's like, what?
Mm.
Like, I never knew that. And the
Yeah,
fact that
that's actually right.
the fact that, you know, her own kid didn't know
Yeah.
that she did that, and I think that it's a big thing on, you know, a topic which, you know, many people have many different opinions on, and I know that being a parent, because I am not one, I will never know that feeling until I am. But it's that topic of conversation that happens a lot in film, a lot in life, where a lot of parents have to or do end up giving up things that make them happy, their creative outlet, their drive to do external hobbies, because obviously it takes so much to raise a child or multiple children. And it's just the fact that it's not until she loses almost all of her sons that's when she goes back to painting, as opposed to you know, having that whilst she has them. Do you know what I mean? It's almost as if it takes her back to a better time, so to speak. I know that's within reason, that of that parameter of a time where she felt like she could express things. And I think that's you're completely right. The dad coming home and realizing things aren't the same now. And I think that's when he probably kicks in for him. You know, he wants things to be as they were, but they're not anymore. And so he sits down with his wife, and I think that's that's definitely a really, really powerful scene.
It's a
And
good
the fact
scene.
you don't see her painting until I think the camera kind of moves in and peers around, and that's when you see that she's painting. I don't know, my heart kind of felt warm but broken at the same time. Do you know what I mean? Where it's just like, I'm glad she's painting again, but you know she's doing it because of
She's doing
the loss that she's felt, and it's the reveal.
It's definitely it's beautiful. Yeah, because you're right. It doesn't even show the painting yet. Like it kind of just pans from when he comes in the room, because the focus is on him a lot in the film, particularly in that family, and then it just shifts to her, and then it just sits there. And I love the shot where he kind of like then fills the frame with her, but it's still focused on her. I love that. It's such a beautiful gosh darn movie. Watch it.
It is a very good movie. However, I will just say, trigger warning. There are lots of themes in this that could be a lot for people.
Yeah.
So please give it, at least give the rating a review of what's included, because it's a rough one. It's tough.
It's heavy. It's very it's one of those, what's one of the most emotionally loaded movies I've seen. Because movies can be emotional, but this one's just like beat you while you're down. But this is a good segue then. Favorite scene, Kai. What did you think? What was a scene that really like boom for you? What do you think about this film?
There's the obvious one, which was, as we've already mentioned, it's Zac Efron with his two kids at the end of the movie. I still think that's, you know, even as it segues into him, Lily James, the two kids, the dogs, all playing together, you know, that proper family dynamic, which he always had with his brothers. That scene is perfect. And I'm as much as I don't particularly look into award shows anymore, for own personal reasons, I think that should have been talked about more, because just everything about that scene is perfect. In terms of my favorite scene that's not that one, purely just because we've already talked about it, again, there's lots of scenes I really, really love.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I really love the scene where Zac Efron takes Lily James and they sneak his brother out to go play the gig so that he can play in his band. And
that's
then
nice scene.
It's just like slowly, I think the camera just pans or just moves slowly towards the band as they're playing, and it's every single character is just happy to be there.
Yeah.
And that then leads into her talking about, oh, your brothers are so great, they're just like you. It's that dynamic. That's a really, really, really good scene. What about yourself?
I want to stray away from the easy answer and saying the end as well. I love, and this kind of goes to like the working the hardest as you can, but also sometimes you just got to relax. The moment when I don't remember which brother he lost, that set up this scene, but when he goes back in the ring and he just runs the ropes and runs the ropes and runs the ropes, like that one shot. So good. If you don't know, like professional wrestlers talk about it all the time. When you hit those ropes the first time, that hurts. Like you are bruised, because that is like, you got to think about it. It's ropes, but it's duct tape wrapped around it. And it's so tight because you got to ricochet off of it that it hurts. And so watching Zach just hit it and then hit it and then hit it. And it's the camera framing of it as well. It's just so like, it's intense.
Yeah.
Because it's such a fundamental thing for pro wrestlers, but he's using it like, I need to just work and I just need to get this in. Cause I know it's after one of the brothers. I just don't know which one. That
isn't it the first brother that goes, because he was in Japan or he was in doing an event, and it's the knowledge that he can have the space that the brother would have had. And so he's training because he's like, I've got to do this. But then obviously when it comes to it, he just can't, there's that wall, so to speak, that emotional barrier that is kicking him.
Yeah. It sucks too, because like Zach, this goes back to, and this, I'll tie this into my wild card pick and then I'll serve it back to you, Kai. This ties into, I'll just say it now, wild card pick. Boom. I gotta go.
Boom! Explosions. Either there's gonna be or there's not, and this will be really embarrassing or really cool.
Did somebody say boom?
I gotta go with Zac Efron, man. I think he was dealt probably the most complicated, interesting character of the brothers, because he's the oldest, but he was never looked at in the way by the father of being the one. And it felt like his opportunities never really came, because yes, he was the world, not the world champion, but he was the champion of the promotion that they had. But once they really got into talks of like, hey, you might be facing Ric Flair and stuff, like the other brothers got the limelight. And then you got to think about the brother who was pursuing music, who was then thrust into the wrestling, like those scenes where they're in the locker room and the dad comes out. And I think it's when they do the 3v3 with the brothers all facing with each other. It's when the dad walks in and he's like, he looks to the, I forgot his name. I forgot their names, but he's the tall blonde one, the one who ends up passing first.
Is it his name Harry Dickerson? Is that the actor's name? Harris Dickerson.
Might be Harris Dickerson. Yeah. Harris's character. It's when the dad chooses him to fight for the world title against Ric Flair in like 8 months or something like that. Because it's a 3v3 in wrestling terms, it's like you have the brothers against I think it's the Fabulous Freebirds or whatever. And it's such a big moment because you're highlighting those three brothers. And because Zach's character in the script isn't a good talker, Harris Dickerson's character is. It's such a strong scene when they're in the locker room and the dad's like, all right, Harris, you're up. Like, it's like he thrusted him into the limelight when it was Zach who's been busting his behind. He's the oldest. It's kind of like that. It follows the theme of like his understanding of like, oh, I'm the next in line, all that stuff. We can talk about that on a different day, but that's such an interesting and hard moment to go through for Zach to kind of play with. And it keeps doing that for him because he's never really thrust into that. He's kind of the workhorse, but never really gets that chance to fight and win the world title. Because then you got to think about, my God, it's not Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Jeremy Allen White.
Jeremy Allen White. It's the other three named person. Yeah. He literally wins the world title. And so Zach never got that opportunity. He never got that chance. The best thing he really got was the promotion, which he ended up selling. And so I don't know, it creates such an interesting character arc for him because he's always just not the limelight. He's not the one in the spotlight. So it's very interesting. That's honestly, I think he killed it. Like you said, Academy Award stuff. Like I think he definitely should have been a lot more prominent in that race. Cause man, I think it really put Zach in a different light that we are not used to. And it kind of gets me excited for The Rock later this year, where he's working on the Smashing Machine because he's playing a biopic boxer or something like that. It's something like that where it's just like these films change how audiences look at you as an actor. It's the same thing with Adam Sandler with Uncut Gems, where it's just like you see him in one way and then you throw him in the deep end and go like, all right, let's see if he can swim. And he swims. And it's like, oh, okay. We're not necessarily we're going to take you seriously now, but like it expands your range as an actor. I think is so beautiful. Zach, I thought it was fantastic. What about you? What is your wild card pick?
I mean, you know, I think this what's so I think what these podcasts are gonna show is that you and me either have the exact same opinion or the complete opposite. Like it's never like close. It's always one on the other end. I completely agree. I think Zac Efron, in terms of the character that completely shocked me, in terms of performance wise, he crushed it. Although, I mean, there is every character. I think every performance in it is really good. I do think Harris Dickinson, though, there's a gentleness to him as a person, and the fact that as you said, he takes the mic from Zac Efron purely to help him out because he can see that he's struggling to kind of get that momentum. Mainly because I think he's like, isn't he like broken his ribs or something? He gets smashed on the floor out the ring, and he just can't get up properly, and then he's just like trying to breathe, and then his brother takes the mic to help him out, and that then leads to his brother getting opportunities and not him. Again, I think that he brings such every other brother I think is very interesting, whereas with him, I see him really as a people person, and he really cares about his brothers, not just as brothers, but as individual people, as if he wasn't connected to them by blood, he'd still really want to know that. And I think that's, I don't know, something really beautiful about that. But again, so many good performances. Maura Tierney as the mum, that scene with Lily James with the outfit for the funeral is oof, good scene. But yeah, I think Zac Efron really kills it. He's such a particularly screenplay wise, really good film.
Yeah, I agree. Such a good film. Again, like Kai said, if you're going to check it out, please, with huge trigger warning, it is very emotional. Serves a lot of different themes. It is a very, very well done, emotionally loaded sports movie. If you're into that stuff, for sure. So give it a watch, give it a try. It's A24. Is it A24?
A24. Yeah.
A24.
A24. I think we should do a separate podcast just for A24 because I could talk about them for ages. But the fact that they took a story that is a true story, and not even the full story. Like I don't think many people would have been able to deal with the film if it told every aspect of it that actually happened on top of that. But like, just even like as you said, like the vibe of the film, the color palette, the sound design, it's really made by a production company that put time and money into wanting to make something because they wanted to tell that story, as opposed to making it because they're like, this is going to make bank. Jimmy, I don't think I don't think if you had told me that a movie about wrestling brothers was coming out, I don't think I would have been particularly very hyped for it. But as soon as I saw the trailer, it immediately grabbed me in. The particularly as you said, the color palette of him going back and forth with the rope and stuff, and the sound design. Look forward to the A24 podcast because I'm gonna talk for days.
We should definitely do one. I think we should do one in eras as well, because that's a lot to talk about for sure. We should definitely do it in eras because A24, they're really setting the precedent because you got to think everything everywhere. Like there's a lot of A24 films that have come out. We'll definitely talk about it when we get to it. That have really just put that production company on the map.
Yeah.
Such a beautiful film. Well, hey, listen, if you stuck around this long, thank you. Seriously. This is just the beginning of something that we're really passionate about. And kind of to dive into our last little bit before we say goodbye. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. Kai, did you enjoy it?
I did.
So-
I mean, it's fun. It's fun as well because we talk about
talk for
movies
long.
and stuff for a long ass time. So this is quite short for us talking, but
for us.
yeah. No,
Very
I
good.
really did. Yeah.
But yeah, again, we've been kind of talking about it a lot. The biggest theme that we wanted to mention in here is men's mental health, making sure you guys, if you know anybody who needs someone to talk to, or if you yourself need someone to talk to, check in with someone. Kai has been such a beautiful human being for me in my life, kind of going through my mental health journey as well. Normalizing therapy, meds, reaching out. These are things that are very, very important for everyone, not just, by the way, people who identify as men or who are men, but just in general. If you need anything, cling to that person who can be there for you. And if you don't have that person, reach out. You never really know who will, out of the kindness of their heart, be there for you. Kind of, diving into therapy is something that's really helped me out. Getting on antidepressants has also helped as well, and reaching out as well. Having people be there for you is very important. So Kai, obviously, I thank you a lot. I'm gonna thank you again, good sir, for being there for me. I really do appreciate that. Do you have anything to add?
Likewise, brother. I think it's a very, very it's a topic which still is not talked about a lot, and I think it's crazy because everyone has their own struggles and are talking about it, going to therapy, or even finding ways in which you can help relax yourself with breathing or mindfulness. Like there's so many things you can do that isn't just I was going to say Netflix. That isn't just therapy. And as well, it's the same. It's the same with me. You've been a great rock for me, and talking about personal things, or even just how I feel on the day. Antidepressants have done a wonderful job for me. Therapy didn't work for me, but I gave it a try. And I think that's the thing, is that you find what works for you, and don't be afraid to say you're not okay, because it's a natural thing to feel, and it's a crazy world we live in, and there will always be somebody to listen. It's the same with in the UK. I know it'll be different in America, but you've got Samaritans. You've got particularly for younger audience members, you've got Childline. That's a really important one as well. Shout, Calm. There's so many different companies and people that are willing to talk and wanting to hear you, wanting to hear and talk through things that you may think people don't want to react to, but there are people to listen. Trust.
Yes, I know. I think that was the biggest thing for me, was that hurdle of getting over, like, being a burden. You are not a burden. Keep that in mind. You are never a burden. People will listen. People will be there for you, and just know, like, nobody is perfect. I think that's the biggest thing that I've been trying to grapple with this stage of my life, is no one is perfect, and continually grow, continually, just be a better person as the days go. I think that's the biggest thing that as long as I keep looking forward and I keep trying to be the better person today, those yesterdays, they're just going to make it a lot easier to keep pushing forward. So something that we definitely like to talk about. Like Kai said, society doesn't get to talk about too much. But we'll plug all those hotlines, those websites, everything we've been talking about in the video, in the description, all that stuff. And we love to see kind of people mentioning this stuff. It's a topic that not a lot of guys and people, but mostly guys, don't like to talk about. So people being able to talk about it's very, very important. So don't be afraid. Just be you. Be you. But
Side note. As a guy, and this is a stigma that's happened a lot when I was younger, just by mentality, society mentality, etc., social media. Tell your mates that you love them. As soon as I started instilling that a couple of years ago, now all of the boys, we always end gaming sessions or anything with, "All right, love you," and there we go. And you'll be surprised. It's a really powerful thing, and I love it. It's great.
It's a good stigma to get past because you know, boys will be boys, but hey, you know, keep growing. Keep growing. I love that. Shout out to the boys, by the way. They've been great for us. Again, thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the podcast. Again, we're not necessarily critics. We're definitely not therapists. We're just two guys trying to make sense of this world we live in and the movies we watch. So
that's true. And we've got a lot more of these coming. We could talk for days. So if you like that sort of thing, you're in for a wild ride. More movie deep dives, more raw emotions, more laughs, because we're just dumb and we're great. More heart, and hopefully more moments that make you feel seen, and we talk with you about movies that you love, and we can just keep developing as people.
Exactly. Hey, so if we connected with you guys in any way, film buffs, mental health, people wanting to get better, hit that subscribe button, y'all. You know, hit the like, comment.
If there's not one here, this is going to be really embarrassing, but
you're making me work, giving me work to do. Hey, share the video with a friend. Drop a comment, do something, so that we have a little bit of engagement, and we want to engage with you guys. Hopefully, we can chat with you guys in the comment section. And hey, Cai and I have been talking about it. We would love to get a guest on for an episode to talk about a film that you're really into, a theme you really want to talk about, something that we can all kind of collaborate on is something we want to do. Just know that we're building this with you, not necessarily just for you.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, thank you for watching. Please take care of yourselves and everyone around you. Give someone a call that you love today. Just do it. Why not? And yeah, we'll see you in the next one.
Take care.
Ta-da!
Ta-da! It's not done.